police is the nucleus around which all the security forces have to come, because the best intelligence, especially in a place like Kashmir where the language was a barrier and the local support was not there, police is the only one which could have provided. And since I provided intelligence and then security forces, they were in adequate numbers. But then it assumed very difficult situations because police was demoralized in early 90s, very early 90s, and security forces were there. Now the problem in that place was to reconcile and coordinate with the security forces. Army has done the job. We have to salute them for those things, bringing the situation under control. They have got one division, 2 divisions deployed in internal security, because the kind of weapons and the kind of destructive ideas that Pakistan was bringing in, it was beyond the capacity of a small posse of policemen who were already being targeted to actually contribute much in the initial stages. But when this Hazratbal happened, we were able to regroup the policemen, and everybody thought policemen are always supported by the local population, at least some sections of local population, because they are their own men. I still feel that the kind of a job that J&K Police has done, I wonder if any police force in the world has been able to bring back a coordinated fight against the militants through the security forces and they leading the targets. Because the problem was that we had to know the targets. The Pakistanis knew the targets because they were a surprise element. So when we got to know intelligence, and that intelligence quite often came from state police forces, intelligence and all, of course others. So all these operations started to be joint operations because the firepower was provided by Army, or the manpower was provided by the Army, CRP, BSF. But the nucleus that was provided for the targets by the state police played a very important role. We had set up special operation groups after Hazratbal surrender, in which the Muslims they were not even involving themselves. So we said no, unless the Muslims of Kashmir, the police and others would get involved, the population would not provide support. So the special operation groups which were set up under the competent leadership of Farooq Khan, whom I had known, and his background history. In fact, I had to take him. Army always thought that police is also mixed up. So, very many security forces, central forces say we are doing your job and our men are being killed, and you policemen are not able to tell us this thing precisely where we should go, and you are not even cooperating with us. No magistrate went with the army. It's only the police that we desired that you have to accompany the army. And it is only the police which has got the legal powers of, this thing. The army is, or the CRP or BSF, they are under a Armed Forces Special Powers Act, a little, protected, and they can do something. But, if any civilian is involved, anybody who is there, the police has to be there. So the civilian areas were targeted by us to take out exclusively the militants. And when the militants started getting being identified, then the confidence of the local civil population also increased. And then these things happened. Almost 400. Earlier the recruitment from Pakistan side of the locals was unending. During the election or 1996, almost 400 people had surrendered to me with arms. And we were able to organize those elections because of surrendered militants who, in fact, two battalions were formed of surrendered militants who had not committed serious crime but had got swayed by the emotions of Kashmir terrorism. So one was in BSF and the other was in CRP. Two battalions were there. Many India Reserve battalions were formed because police, with their own policemen like armed police, like India Reserve battalions and all, got the numbers that were desired for police. Amarnath Yatra used to be organized. They used to target that. So a lot of preparations were being made in Amarnath Yatra. I am talking of 1995. By that time, it was believed that foreigners would never be targeted, ever, because they provided the support. America provided the support. The Western countries provided the support. That is how the Pakistanis were able to collaborate with the Afghanis militia to sort of compel Russia to recede and all that. All these provided training centers for this thing, and then they were forwarded. This was a first occasion when they kidnapped foreigners initially. Kashmir provides very good hiking, trekking areas. They kidnapped 4 people, and then what happened was that ultimately they remained in their custody and all that. So the country people had put a lot of pressure, and in fact America had sent FBI. The president is authorized wherever their citizens are kidnapped, they can send their FBI or so to liaise with the local police. And Scotland Yard people were also, they were based in very good surroundings. These people were taken from place to place and all that. Although those are high mountains and hikers paradise and all that, we deployed forces, but there was no chance of any encounter being there, because they were being supported by local fellows. So they would take them in the night or some such place and all that, guide them on. So when they killed that Norwegian by slitting his neck, sort of tattooing that it is Al-Faran. Al-Faran was till then unheard of, but it was actually an operation by Masood Azhar, and it was an operation of Jaish-e-Mohammed. John Childs was another fellow who ran for his life after because when he heard that he was beheaded, so he took leave that from them that he was having a stomach upset or whatever, and then he ran for 2 days for his life, because he said they would have killed me in any case. So when we went there to this, they sort of kidnapped two more foreigners and from Germany and this thing. And these fellows told us later, especially John Childs, because we have direct evidence from him, that they first asked their nation's identity. And it was all Western countries which were targeted. The other countries were not even touched, if any. And no local, tourists were also touched at that point of time. This was a landmark, event in Kashmir. The countries whose people had been, kidnapped, they were putting a lot of international pressure and national pressure on the central government, which was also very concerned that what is there and, you should rescue them. So, but we continued our, search operations, but nothing came out. When the second lot were kidnapped, then I, along with my PSO in uniform, and also General Saklani, who was the security advisor, were deputed on the state chopper to visit that Pahalgam area for the Amarnath arrangements, because it became very, alarming that if foreigners are also not being spared, then they would. We went up to that place, but then since we had time to the second lot where it had been kidnapped, we tried to take a detour because our pilot, Kahlon, he was a fighter pilot in Air Force earlier. He was the director of civil aviation. He was a very competent pilot and a daredevil pilot. So he said that let's have a view of the place. While we were flying at some place, we saw on a small meadow one fellow sort of waving his white this thing. We learned that it was his shirt there, and trying to get some help. So we were not sure whether it was a trap of the militants or others, but then we thought we'll take a chance. We brought down, and this Kahlon said that I will be able to, and if he is this thing, we'll rescue him. So when we landed down, this fellow who was wanting some help, he started running back into the forest area. But when he saw us in uniform, then he understood that these are police people of Kashmir. So then he came running down and all, and we just put him between my security officer and myself in the middle, and we took off again. It was a very miraculous escape for him. We got all the information from him. He said that all these fellows were, because he had seen Ostro also being beheaded, so he said that these fellows were carrying, the big, communication centers. Most likely they were in communication. They're likely in communication with their fellows. Their beard and their upkeeping was not Kashmiri. They were not even talking in Kashmiri language, and therefore the satellite phones that they were using were like this. So thereafter we brought him to Srinagar, and within a day the American embassy, we informed the American embassy, we clearly told them that now this radical Islamist terrorists with whom you cooperated so much in Afghanistan and Pakistan are going to target you because you are trying to condemn. You are realizing that this is a terrorism which can spread elsewhere, so you are condemning their actions and all. So, but they took John Childs, and then later, after one day or so, they sent him back to America. Now, these FBI and Scotland Yard people were already there. So our RAW and IB also had satellite phones. What happened after that was that these forces said that we can set the satellite force and intercept this thing and sort of have a communication with the people, because we are not physically able to go near them even with lots of searches, but we will be able to communicate. So they brought in our IG, Mr. Tikku was there. He talked for 3-4 days. Their demand was that this Masood Azhar should be let free, and we should be let safe passage with arms and all. At one time they also said you with me later. So this thing went on. The governor's directions were that you don't have to commit yourself anything, keep them engaged. I also talked to them, and 2-3 days, and in the presence of CBI and Scotland Yard, they came to be joining that. And I used to tell them that it is a humanitarian this thing, the world is condemning your action, and so on those, and very many appeals were also issued by the embassies that they are innocent people, so why should you not leave them and all. But they were determined to get something out of it, but nothing came out of that. They actually completely broke away, and they carried him from place to place. Of course, sometimes we got the information that they were brought here, but they were moved from there. And then it continued up to December or so. But really nothing concrete emerged. These fellows were caught in a bind. They had, kidnapped the citizens of some of the most powerful countries in the world and Western countries in the world. And if they let him go, they already were very scared that this John Childs had been, rescued. My hope for Naya Kashmir is bright. Kashmiris, they have now reconciled virtually to the fact of abolition of Article 370, and whatever the opponents may say, for the last 3 years earlier there was that during the COVID times the whole country suffered, so that was different. But even just after the abolition of Article 370, they have reconciled to the fact that it is their fate lies with India, not with Pakistan or not with any separatist organization. Kashmiris have been fond of good living and peaceful this thing. This terrorism had completely disturbed them, changed the society, their social structure and all. So with our grip in Kashmir after the abolition of Article 370, all those signals have gone to Pakistan also firstly, that it will be completely integrated. The Kashmiris have understood that there can't be any other change on that after Article 370. And Delhi has got this strong control of the situation. So all these factors, and also the factor that Pakistan is a weakened country. They organized terrorism in which they lost a lot of their people also, because many militants were killed in that place. And so they don't see that they can now get Kashmir in through any forceful this thing. And also our J&K Police, which is the main citadel to control this, which is supported by the local population and which understands the psyche and the society of Kashmir. They are now taking over, and in a big way. So a time will come when all these security forces would be, the minimum may be kept there, but these forces would be released from there, and we have high hopes that the Kashmiris, who have seen earlier much better times, peaceful times and all, will be participating in this. And so Kashmir has a much bright future, because with now their arrangement with the central government, now their association with the central government will bring them on a much larger platform in which the foreign tourists, the Indian tourists, and many others, and most of the development will take place, because development only takes place when peaceful conditions are restored. So that is what is happening, and I have full hopes that it will go on, and Kashmir will be, when the statehood is restored to it, it will be a normal Indian state.